I date expired food for 9 months to buy my son a 2,900 camera drone. My nephew flew it into the church roof. On purpose. The camera captures the moment right before impact. An expensive drone worth nearly $3,000 spinning wildly through the air, heading straight for the old church roof. But this isn't just any drone. This is 9 months of sacrifice, 9 months of expired food, 9 months of a father's silent suffering. And in 3 seconds, it will all be destroyed by the hands of someone he trusted. This is a story about sacrifice, betrayal, and a lesson that will change everything. March 23rd. The day everything changed. Marcus Bennett sat in his small kitchen in suburban Cleveland, Ohio, staring at his 12-year-old son, David, whose eyes were glued to a YouTube video. The boy had been talking about the DJI Mavic 3 Pro for months. $2,900. An impossible amount for a single father working as a warehouse supervisor, barely making $42,000 a year. His ex-wife had left 3 years ago, taking half of everything and leaving him with full custody and mounting bills. That night, as David slept, Marcus made a decision that would define the next 9 months of his life. He opened his refrigerator and looked at the fresh groceries he'd just bought. Chicken breasts, vegetables, milk with a date 2 weeks out. Then he remembered the clearance section at the grocery store, the dented cans marked down to 70 cents, the bread dated yesterday, half price, the yogurt cups expiring tomorrow, 3 for $1. He did the math on a crumpled receipt. If he spent $15 a week on expired or near-expired food instead of $70 on fresh groceries, he could save $55 weekly. In 9 months, that would be roughly $2,100. With his modest Christmas bonus and tax return, he could reach $2,900 by December. David's 13th birthday. His son would finally have what he dreamed about. The next morning, Marcus started his new routine. Breakfast became day-old bagels and expired cream cheese. Lunch was dented soup cans heated in the warehouse microwave. Dinner was whatever marked-down meat he could find, often with a grey tinge that disappeared after heavy seasoning and thorough cooking. His stomach protested frequently. Cramps became his companion. But every time David talked about that drone, showing him aerial footage from other young creators, explaining how he wanted to document their neighborhood, their story, Marcus felt it was worth it. By June, Marcus had lost 17 pounds. His co-workers noticed. His sister, Patricia, noticed during their monthly Sunday dinners. His body was paying the price for expired dairy, questionable meat, and canned goods that had been sitting on shelves long past their prime. There were nights he spent bent over the toilet, his body rejecting what he'd forced it to accept. Mornings when the cramps were so severe he could barely stand for his warehouse shift. But he never told David. The boy thought his father was on a health kick, eating simple meals, intermittent fasting. Marcus let him believe it. He watched his son's excitement grow with each passing month, watched him research drone photography, study flight patterns, prepare for the gift he didn't know was coming. That hope in his son's eyes made every expired meal worth consuming. Patricia confronted him in July. She'd found expired food containers in his trash when she'd helped him with yard work. The argument was fierce. She called him irresponsible, obsessive, martyring himself unnecessarily. Marcus stood firm. David needed this. After the divorce, after changing schools, after losing his mother's daily presence, David needed to know his father would move mountains for him. Even if those mountains were built from expired food and silent suffering. The bank account grew slowly. $2,100 by August, $2,400 by October. Marcus could see the finish line. His nephew James, Patricia's 15-year-old son, had been spending more time at their house. The boys got along well, or so Marcus thought. James seemed interested in David's drone research, asking questions, watching videos with him. Marcus appreciated the family bonding, not seeing what was hidden beneath the surface. December 14th, David's 13th birthday. Marcus had ordered the DJI Mavic 3 Pro 2 weeks earlier, watching his bank account drop from $2,947 to $312 in a single transaction. 9 months of sacrifice. Completed. He'd hidden the box in Patricia's garage, wrapped it carefully the night before. The morning was cold in Cleveland, temperature hovering around 28 degrees, typical for mid-December. David came downstairs expecting the usual birthday breakfast and maybe some small gifts, books or clothes. Instead, he found a large box in the living room, professionally wrapped. The moment he tore through the paper and saw the DJI logo, his face transformed. Tears came immediately. He'd never expected this, never imagined his father could afford it. Marcus felt every cramped stomach, every questionable meal, every moment of physical suffering wash away as he watched his son's joy. David hugged him with an intensity that nearly knocked him over, repeating, "Thank you," until the words lost meaning and became pure emotion. They spent the morning reading the manual together, charging the batteries, downloading the control app. David was meticulous, careful, treating the drone like the precious gift it was. James arrived that afternoon with Patricia for the birthday celebration. While the adults prepared dinner, the boys took the drone to the backyard for its first flight. Marcus watched from the kitchen window, seeing David's careful movements, his cousin James standing beside him, both looking up at the hovering machine. Everything seemed perfect. Marcus allowed himself a moment of pure satisfaction. The sacrifice had been worth it, but he didn't see what happened next, didn't see James lean over and whisper something to David, didn't see the brief argument, quickly suppressed, didn't see James suddenly grab the controller from David's hands. The drone was 80 feet in the air when James took control. David lunged for the controller, shouting, but James was bigger, stronger, 3 years older. He turned away, fingers moving rapidly across the controls. The drone jerked violently, no longer hovering smoothly but darting erratically across the sky. David was screaming now, trying to grab the controller, but James pushed him back. What happened next lasted 3 seconds but would replay in Marcus's mind for years. James pointed the drone toward the old Presbyterian church that backed up to their property line, a beautiful stone building from 1922 with a steep slate roof and a copper-topped steeple. The congregation had just finished afternoon services. People were gathered outside, talking in the winter air. The drone accelerated, flying at maximum speed directly toward the church roof. David's scream brought Marcus running from the kitchen. He burst through the back door in time to see the drone, a dark speck against the grey December sky, slam into the slate roof with a crack that echoed across the yards. The $2,900 machine tumbled down the steep pitch, bouncing off slate tiles, pieces breaking away with each impact, before finally landing in the church's rain gutter with a metallic crunch that was sickening to hear. Marcus stood frozen, unable to process what he'd witnessed. David collapsed to his knees in the snow, hands covering his face. James still held the controller, but his expression had changed from whatever dark satisfaction he'd felt to sudden realization of what he'd done. Patricia appeared beside Marcus, her face going pale as she understood the scene before her. The silence that followed was broken only by David's sobbing and the distant voices of concerned churchgoers pointing at the wreckage in their gutter. 9 months of expired food. 9 months of stomach cramps and physical suffering, 9 months of sacrifice. Destroyed in 3 seconds by someone Marcus had trusted in his home, around his son. The aftermath unfolded in Marcus's living room 30 minutes later. The drone was destroyed, retrieved from the church gutter by the pastor himself, who'd been kind about the incident but firm that the Bennetts were responsible for any roof damage. The machine's body was cracked, the camera lens shattered, one propeller completely missing. Even if the electronics somehow survived, it would cost more to repair than to replace. Patricia demanded answers from James. The 15-year-old initially claimed it was an accident, that he'd just wanted to try flying it and lost control. But David, through his tears, told the truth. James had been jealous. Jealous that his cousin was getting something so expensive. Jealous that Uncle Marcus, who James thought had less money than his own parents, could afford something his mother called an unnecessary luxury when he'd asked for a gaming computer. The confrontation that followed was ugly. James finally admitted it. He'd taken the controller on purpose. He'd crashed the drone on purpose. He wanted David to feel the disappointment he felt every time his cousin got something he wanted. The jealousy had been building for months, hidden behind fake interest and feigned friendship. The moment David had that controller in his hands, flying his dream gift, James had snapped. Patricia was devastated, apologetic, offering to pay for a replacement. But Marcus knew her financial situation. She and her husband were struggling with their own debts, their mortgage, James's orthodontic bills. Taking $2,900 from them would create a burden that would strain their family for months. Marcus told her no, but the damage to their relationship was done. James was banned from their house indefinitely. That evening, after Patricia and James left in painful silence, Marcus sat with David in the living room. His son held the broken drone pieces in his lap, tears still flowing. Marcus knew he had to tell him the truth about the expired food, about the 9 months of sacrifice, about every stomach cramp and every moment of physical suffering that had gone into that gift. David needed to understand the value of what had been destroyed, and more importantly, the depth of his father's love. When Marcus finished explaining, David set down the broken pieces and hugged his father with even more intensity than that morning. He understood now, fully, what the gift had represented. They sat together in the quiet living room as evening turned to night, holding each other, processing the day's emotional devastation together. The drone was gone, but something else had formed in its place. A deeper bond, a complete understanding between father and son about sacrifice, love, and the cruelty that sometimes exists even in family. Marcus never ate another expired meal. David never got another drone. But 3 months later, using money from odd jobs and selling some of his old gaming equipment, David bought his father a framed photo. It showed the two of them from that December morning, taken by Patricia just moments after David had opened his gift, both smiling with pure joy, the unopened drone box between them. That photograph captured the one perfect moment before everything went wrong. It still hangs in Marcus's kitchen today, a reminder that the value of sacrifice isn't measured in the gift itself, but in the love that drives someone to give everything they have for the happiness of another. Stories like Marcus and David's remind us that life rarely follows the script we write for it. Sacrifice doesn't guarantee the outcome we hope for, and sometimes the people we trust reveal sides of themselves we never expected. But through it all, love remains the constant, the force that makes the sacrifice meaningful regardless of the result. What would you have done in Marcus's position? Should Patricia have forced James to work to replace the drone? Was Marcus wrong to sacrifice his health for a material gift? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters, and this community thrives on these important conversations. If this story moved you, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss the real stories that make us reflect on our own lives. And when you're finished here, the next recommended video tells another powerful story about family, sacrifice, and unexpected consequences that you won't want to miss. Thank you for watching, and remember, every sacrifice tells a story worth hearing.